Welcome to the Academy of General Dentistry podcast series featuring Dr. George Schmidt. Each episode features experts in the field of dentistry who share insights and inspiration to help you succeed. Let's get started.
Welcome back, everyone. We've got another great program for you today as we welcome not one, but two guests as we're going to talk a little bit about how we can best manage our practices. But before we begin, make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and ring that bell. That way you'll be among the first to be notified of all things AGD. My guests today are Dr. Jason Mann and Phil Cassis. Hey guys, how are you?
Good. Hey, thanks for having us, Dr. Schmidt.
Really, really great to have you on the program. Looking forward to some really great and fruitful discussion today. Let me tell the audience a little bit about you guys before we get going here. So Dr. Jason Mann, his entrepreneurial spirit has led him to several successful dental business ventures. As an executive leader for several dental companies, Dr. Mann has successfully created and led the development of an implementation of dental services, not only in the clinical practice space, but also in the administrative, operational, and insurer space. Through his partnerships, key opinion leader positions, and the growth of his own practices, Dr. Mann is one of the dental industry's most sought-after leaders. Phil Cassis has successfully led and developed business units and teams, consistently delivering positive results for both the business and their customers. He is extensively networked throughout the dental industry, having partnered with industry-leading dental consulting and business service providers. Over the past decade, he has advised thousands of dental practices across all 50 states on business strategy and best practices to improve practice quality, increase profitability, and mitigate risks. His passion for the dental profession emanates from having many family members that are dentists, including AGD's own past president, Dr. Bruce Cassis. So, guys, I don't think there's a better time than now to talk about things that we can do to help or manage our practices better, with rising costs and reimbursements in almost every case going down. Anything that our membership, our listeners can get to, to help them navigate these troubling times. I mean, I think that's a fantastic thing. And I know you guys are involved in the industry here with your Providence Dental Partners, where you provide a lot of these services. So if you don't mind, can you just share a business model that you guys have and similar companies may have along these lines? What exactly it is that you do?
Yeah, so first of all, Dr. Schmidt, thank you so much for having us. It's a real pleasure to join the conversation with the AGD. The AGD is certainly a pillar of excellence in the dental community and specifically around general dentistry, and that's who we work with at Providence Dental Partners, our general dentist. And we more so support on both the business side, but also the clinical side as well, helping our offices to really deliver a standard of care and a patient experience that goes beyond traditional standards. We are a network of 9 dental practices here in Georgia in the Southeast. And that's really where we focus, is supporting the doctors more so on the business side. It's not uncommon that a lot of doctors, as the industry's become more and more complex, it's become more and more difficult to understand all the different operational components that go into having a successful practice, from marketing to HR to the accounting side. And those are the support services that we provide to our practices, in addition to clinical training and mentorship as well.
Yeah, so we'll talk a lot about that in a few minutes. But Jason, I know you provide, as Phil had just said, some clinical support. So how does that work? I mean, a lot of companies will provide the back end, the office, the front office, and so on and so forth, marketing and all those kind of things. But what about that clinical component? How does that plug in with you guys?
No, absolutely. And so, the clinical component, can encompass a wide array of different services. But the biggest thing that we end up seeing is around clinical autonomy, because some of the things that I hear about with some of the incoming dentists is, what autonomy do I have? How can I gain guidance and mentorship? Because that's one of the key buzzwords, is where can I have additional support within an organization, but while still taking care of the patients. And so what I really try to strive for in our organization is the ability to communicate and create transparency within different modes or different line items within dentistry, for example, like in surgical aspect of dentistry or orthodontics and dentistry, really creating some partnerships with some external vendors for participation through continued education, but also giving them some guidance of, what they have to begin with as a phased one approach. Because, especially on the surgical side, a lot of the new grads will come out and see all the hype about, teeth in a day, all on X and stuff like that. But we really want to create some foundational knowledge. This is great to get down to that point, but let's start with the basics. Let's understand the foundational groundwork of, socket preservation. Same thing with ortho is understanding occlusion. But where to begin? They see a lot of the end in mind, but they just need some additional help in creating some, I guess, customized pathways in order to get to that end road.
Yeah. So let's back up a little bit here. And Phil, if you don't mind, will you just help us educate the audience a little bit? Because a lot about what we're talking about is a dental service organization type model. But there's a lot of different variations to that. So Phil, if you don't mind, can you just walk us through the definitions of these different kind of things?
Yeah, so a lot of them mean the same thing, right? Whether you call it a dental partnership organization, a dental support organization, at the end of the day, we're really providing administrative relief to the practice level to be able to support them in a lot of operating functions that maybe they don't have the expertise, the experience, or even just so the resources. And that's really what we do. We bring scalable resources to our practices and really allow our clinicians to focus on what's most important to them. And that's taking care of the patient, right? We take care of the business side in partnership with the practices that we operate. It is a true partnership. We don't just own and tell the offices what to do. Each individual practice is unique, and there's a unique set of circumstances that we always work with. And the doctors are still leaders in our practices, and it's really a partnership in the way that we support them. It's not cookie cutter as to where we go in and put in the same systems over and over and over. We really like to identify, it's incumbent upon us to identify what is unique about that practice and understand it, and then be able to support not just the practice, but the team members that are there as well. And a lot of that comes down to the back office functions, revenue cycle management, which is dealing with all the insurance, right? Understanding different payer networks, all the updates and coding. Marketing is always a big one that we really excel at. HR, accounting, all the different business services. We take that off the offices so they can focus on what's right in front of them, and that's the patients walking in to receive care.
So when you guys are talking partnerships, and I imagine this is a little bit different. So in the industry, if you
Yep.
would, is there the ability for folks to hire a company such as yourself or others, or is it a true partnership? In other words, where you actually have equity in the practice? Walk me through that. How does that work?
Yeah, so it's shared equity, and it's a great question. That's one of the things I think a lot of DSOs get painted with the same brush, that it's all, private equity companies that are usually backed by investment banks. There's usually a couple different layers of private equity up the ladder. With our group, that is one of the differentiating factors. We are Dr. Mann and I, we are equity members. We are board members. We are the operating partners. So there is nobody above us. All the decisions get made local. And Dr. Mann really leads our practices, both clinically and in a patient-centric manner. We don't have a big investment bank up the ladder who's dictating care to us or telling us how to run the business. Really allows us the flexibility to operate with the patient's interest, best in mind. And so with that, it really it gives us the flexibility to go out and partner with other offices that have shared alignment. Anytime we look at a partnership, it always starts with alignment. Regardless of the industry, partnerships either do well or they fall apart based on alignment or lack thereof. And so anytime we partner with a practice, it's got to start with that. It's got to start with the clinical patient-centric approach. The business side will always follow. And so when we bring partners into our organization, they're investing right alongside Dr. Mann and I, not at a lower level, which is what most DSOs do.
So let me ask you this. So this model may, if you just look from the outside in, this model you might say would favor a practice that might be struggling a little bit. Their numbers aren't where they should be because the doctor might be getting a little burnt out. He can't manage everything he's working on. HR and all these different kind of things and can't focus on the clinical. So this model or what you're describing is fantastic for that. But what do you say to the person that might be concerned about what their valuation might be because that's going on when they enter into a partnership like this?
Yeah, so we're not going to be a good fit for everybody. We do prefer progressive practices. We love technology. We love to be able to deliver better patient outcomes and use the tools and resources that are available now in the industry to be able to deliver on that. We have some really great practices. By no means do we just target struggling practices. Again, when somebody's going through a transition, there are probably literally hundreds of things that they're looking at and that I know that we look at to decide if this is a good partnership. The financials are one of them. But I would say in all the partnerships that we have, I don't know that that's been the key and leading factor. It's more of alignment with us as leaders and are we putting our patients first?
So,
Yeah, and I
yeah,
just
go
wanted
ahead.
to add to that. Yeah, and specifically when we'll start looking at these opportunities and partnerships, is as a clinician myself and like yourself, is we want to make sure that we are aligning with what is our goal. Is taking care of the patient. What is that patient experience like? And because we don't want to lose that or cloud that judgment throughout this process and understanding how can we align our clinical goals and back in what that partnership and that support arm looks like. And so we just want to make sure that we are aligned clinically on what the expectations are, so that we can really move forward with that. Because at the end of the day, we want to provide that support system to the clinical team and provide that autonomy as well, and give them some additional support to really expound upon what their desires may be. Is it different avenues that they want to learn more about while still performing that clinical dentistry? So that's really at the core of our focus when we start talking to some of these partner dentists.
And Jason, when you come to a practice, I mean, what kind of pushback are you getting from the staff? And how do you handle that? I would imagine you've got some great reception and some otherwise maybe not so much.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. The first thing that we usually notice is just the unknown. And that's why we try to do as much due diligence up front and just let them know that, if we're coming in here and changing everything within the practice, then quite honestly, we should go out and do a de novo practice startup. We're trying to align where we can find that most of the vision of the practice aligns with the majority of our vision. So if it's 80%, then the last 20% we're trying to enhance or tweak a little bit. But we're really trying to find those partner dentists that really enjoy the clinical aspects of dentistry, but just need some additional leadership and support. Because at the end of the day, the clinical team and the administrative team at the local level really look up to that dentist. And so we want to make sure that, through this partnership, we're not making any drastic changes, and any changes that we actually, either discuss or try to offer is really coming through collaboration with that partner dentist. So it's a collaborative effort so that we can get as much buy-in as possible. Because as Phil said, it's not a cookie cutter mentality of this is what's going to go in here. Because at the end of the day, we may learn some things within that local practice that we can actually do better globally as an organization. And so we want to stay humble enough to, continue learning, because there are some smart people out there. And, even with these small niches of practices, we could be learning things as well. So it's really about that partnership and buy-in from the clinical leader, that dentist, to make sure that it's his sign off as well as we start talking about implementation.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, we have to take a quick break from a word from our sponsor. We'll be right back.
This AGD podcast series is sponsored by DHP, one of the largest family-owned full-service dental dealers in the U.S. DHP provides dental and medical supplies, equipment repair, maintenance, technology, and equipment sales to clinics and practices nationwide. AGD members receive exclusive discounts and promotional offers when they buy from DHP. We are especially grateful for DHP's continued support of AGD. Their partnership helps make this podcast and the vital conversations we share possible. Discover why like-minded general dentists work with DHP by visiting their website at www.dhpsupply.com.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. We're here with our guests, Dr. Jason Mann and Phil Cassis, and we're talking a little bit about practice management. So, guys, let me ask you this. So, before the break, we were talking a lot about a lot of good things there. The model as you describe it, I mean, are you guys, as a company like Providence, looking for long-term dental partners, or is this a scenario? Because I know there's a lot of companies out there that will come in, they'll value your practice, they'll help you, they'll work, and then they expect the practice owner to exit after X number of years. I mean, is that what we're looking at here, or are there different options along those roads for people that might be out there listening?
Yeah, so I'll take that one, Dr. Mann. There's different options, right? We have some practices where the doctor is looking to maybe transition over the next 3 to 5 years. And so part of what we do is we help them find a dentist to come in and start that transition process when they're ready. By no means do we just go out and hire somebody and throw them to the practice and say, hey, here's your partner. It's a very selective recruiting and hiring process to make sure there's alignment between those practices. And so a lot of the practices that we have are multi-doctor practices. We love to have 2 to 3 doctors in our locations. Some of our locations are rather large, being 16 plus operatory practices, which allows for a lot more flexibility on our end. But we always, again, look for that alignment with the doctor, and just based on what their transition goals are, we try to meet them where they are and support them over the next 3 to 5 years.
So then how does that work? I mean, for somebody that'll be looking to go down this road, the first step would be to reach out to someone yourselves or someone in a similar with a similar company there.
Mhm.
And then you would have a discussion about your goals, your likes, and all. I mean, walk me through how that
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, so it starts with a conversation, right? Just like private practice, not all DSOs and groups are the same. And so it starts with a conversation to understand what makes each individual group unique. And then just see if there's alignment, right? Again, there's going to be hundreds of different talking points. Usually, people will prioritize maybe 3 to 5 of those being financial, clinical alignment, all the different things. Timelines are always important. What happens to my team after I transition, right? So it's really important that they have some detailed conversations with the groups or the DSOs that they're looking to partner with and understand what that looks like, not just for them, but their stakeholders as well, being family, team members, and just ask questions. Most dentists are going to go through one transition in their career. So it's important to ask a lot of questions and don't be satisfied, right? If you still have questions, keep reaching out, reach out to your colleagues in your networks. And certainly the ones who have gone through a transition before, and find out like, hey, what did you learn going through that process? But maybe what did you learn after you transitioned, right? So that you're able to ask those questions on the front end and understand what that looks like. It's always one thing to kind of get an idea conceptually or on paper what transition looks like, but going through it is a whole different scenario.
Yeah. And Jason, what can someone expect in terms of autonomy in these models? Is that negotiable? Is there one model that works best? Is there, if the sort of the DSO, if you would, or the corporation, if they have their model that's imposed, is that necessarily has to be followed, or talk to me about that.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And really around clinical autonomy, what I try to do is try to identify what that baseline looks like on the front end. And I'll give you a quick example of that is, understanding what's our basis of, clinical delivery of care, especially around perio. What do they consider perio? What's considered scaling and root planing? So that we can have a clear understanding of what we're looking at going forward, so that we're not getting into scenarios where, there are 7, 8, 9 millimeter pockets and, the patient's been coming in and getting a pro fee and just say, listen, based on what we know, this is not what standard of care is, and trying to reset and understand and having a common ground. And then really going back and saying, well, how can we build upon it? Because it's really, governed by a lot of our, boards of dentistry, a lot of education, what we want to see, and also having supporting documentation if there's things that are kind of, getting into the gray area. I'm always open to discuss and learn more about it if we're not doing it, but also making sure that, the procedures that we're doing and the delivery of care that we're doing are not outside of the standards or not outside of the norm. And we're not trying to push, experimental procedures on anybody or any patients. And so going back to, what does autonomy look like? It's really the basics of general dentistry in our organization, and making sure that type basis, on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, so that we can really understand what that demographic, what that patient volume looks like, what that patient base looks like, so that we can really align on that. And more so just for me to understand how they're actually doing in their clinical practice. But I'm not going to ever come in here, because at the end of the day, I'm sure you can testify to this too. If they ever get called in front of the board is going to say, well, you know what, you're the licensed dentist, you're the one making the decision. And so that's why I try to always stress to the clinicians that, I'm never going to come in here and override or push a certain type of concept down your throat. We want to give you opportunities to not only educate yourself, but also educate us if there's things that you're seeing that we're not. So I think it begins with communication and transparency, and so and that's where the autonomy will start kind of bringing into the delivery of clinical care for these patients.
Yeah. So when you go in, not only do you evaluate the sort of the front office, if you would, but you're going to evaluate the clinical skills and so on and so forth, and procedures and protocols for the practice, and make some recommendations and try to get the folks back on track, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Phil, let me ask you this, because I think this might be near and dear to your heart. So in a model like this, what about, supplies and equipment and all these kind of things? Can we expect some buying power, if you would, as things scale up? I mean, where are we going with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And procurement is certainly one of the services we provide, and we've got some certainly an extensive background and experience in doing that. At the same time, I would say that we're not going to save ourselves to prosperity, right? Some of our procurement partners are some of our biggest assets too. They've got so much access to information and what's going on in the market, what's coming down the line. We look forward to when our procurement partners are coming in, because we're always learning more from them, whether it be on new technologies that are coming out or new products. I can say, just having spent as many years on the procurement side of the business as I did, there's only so much you can save. We certainly leverage our collective buying power, but it's not something that we're actively trying to do over and over and over again. There's only so much that you can save. We really focus on top line revenue, and not so much how much can we squeeze on that bottom line expense. At the end of the day, though, the best decisions are made in the operatory, not in the boardroom. So again, if it starts with, is this good for the patient? That's kind of how we evaluate it. We can always back the numbers out of it to make sure that it's a good investment. And we do like to make those investments. We kind of standard for us. We love to have CBCT in every single one of our practices, right? We know that it gives an advantage to the providers to see more dentistry to help with better patient outcomes. Digital dentistry, as far as scanners and things like that. We love making those investments, right? There is a cost to those. But really it comes back to the patient experience. Most patients, when they come into our practices, they don't know if we're a good dentist, bad dentist, or how we're different than the dentist down the street. They know how we made them feel and how we treated them when they came in. And so part of our goal is the support group is to make sure that our practices and our providers have the tools and the resources they need to be successful, and that means delivering better patient outcomes for the patients that come through the doors. But yeah, there's no part of the business side that we can't support on or help with, or have extensive resources or connections to be able to make sure that our practices are supported so they can focus on patient care.
Yeah. So this will be a question for both of you guys. So let's turn this a little bit. So I'm a practice owner. I'm looking and say, hey, this might be something I would be interested in doing. What are the questions that I should be asking the business models like yourself? What do I need to ask you? What's important that I should know in making my decision?
Well, I guess I'll kick that off, Phil. Just from the clinical standpoint, is really understanding what our clinical vision is, and also being open and honest around, as I was saying earlier, what your clinical goals are. Are you in the mindset of, hey, I would like to start pulling out of clinical dentistry in 3 to 5 years, or are you looking to, trying to parlay yourself into, half clinical dentistry and some half, growth into an organization where you can really give back into a mentorship program? So just setting the stage from that standpoint will give me a little bit more opportunity to dive in a little bit further. But going back to some of the questions you would ask is really understanding what are the things, to your point earlier, what are the things that I could anticipate changing clinically outside of the administrative part of the business. Am I going to come in here and you're going to mandate different products? And as you know, as a clinical dentist, and if you've been using a certain product for quite some time and you've been getting great results, the last thing that would worry you is coming in and all of a sudden changing a product and finding out that, now I'm having redos and having sensitivity issues, or I can't deliver the same quality of care. What are those opportunities that you can leverage of what has created your success in your practice, to be able to bridge that gap into that new relationship? And also finally is really around asking around where is my limitations, where's my swim lanes around autonomy, clinical care autonomy. Am I going to still be able to practice what I've been doing for quite some time? Are you going to, or is your model to come in and bring in other specialties where you're going to mandate me of sending all the specialty care to these other specialists, and then my scope of practice is starting to narrow, and I really like more of that broad band of clinical dentistry. And so to me, those are the kind of the three high points that I try to hit on with some of the partner dentists, just to kind of really dispute any misconceptions out there, and just showing that, this is a partnership, this is a collaborative communication. And there are things out there that we need to continue communicating about in order to bridge that gap.
Yeah, I would add to that, Dr. Schmidt, and just say it really depends on what they're looking for, right? Do they want to go to an organization that has 15, 20 years worth of building infrastructure in place, and hey, I can join them and be practice number 532, or I can go to maybe a smaller regional DSO that I can be practice number 117, or hey, do I want to get in with this even a younger group, right? That's only been around for 2 years, has a lot of expertise, but I'm getting in early with them, right? Because maybe they want to get into mentorship or provide opportunities for their team members who have been with them for years to continue to grow their careers. It really depends on what they're looking for, and there's different options out there for everybody who is looking to go that route. And so I think it really just starts with knowing what they're looking to get out of it too, and then to see if there's alignment. We're somewhat local here in the Georgia market, right? So people know us. We're very transparent, almost to a fault sometimes, that we're super transparent. We love being transparent with our partners but before we get to a formal partnership, we'd rather know, and they would like to know too, what's this going to look like post-close? Don't tell us that, hey, nothing changes, but then as soon as the ink is dry on the contracts, everything changes, right? We're pretty upfront around that to where there's been a few people, they'll tell us like, hey, I really appreciate you all being transparent, and maybe that led to us not becoming partners, right? But that's good for us too. We don't want to be partners with somebody who there's not alignment to, and so transparency is key for us.
No question about it. And so what would be, if you had to give me one or two big red flags, if I was going to go and, reach out to folks to see if I wanted to go down this road, give me a couple of red flags and say, oh, wait a minute, that's not a good idea.
Yeah, so I would say one that stands out for me, and again, we look at probably 50 to 60 practices to partner with every year. And there's very few that we feel like, hey, there's alignment on both sides here to really move forward. The willingness to change. The industry is evolving and evolving quickly. If you're still doing things the same way you did 20 or 30 years ago, and you're really not open to learning new ways or evolving how you practice or something like that, I don't want to be the person that's got to come in and convince you to change at that point. By no means are we coming in and mandating all that change, but at the same time, we are very progressive. We know that the industry changes. Patient expectations change, right? Where we've come just in the last 10 years, and now with the advent of AI and how it's impacting both clinical dentistry, but also the business side. If you're not open to looking at new ways of doing things, you're probably just not going to be a good fit for us.
Yeah, just like anything,
Yeah,
just like anything else, right?
absolutely.
You've got to make sure that the partnership's going to work and it's going to be beneficial on
Yep.
both sides. Dr. Mann, did you want to say something there? Sorry, I cut you off.
No. Yeah, I just wanted to, second what Phil said is because at the end of the day, willingness to be open to change if change is needed. And I say that is, if we go into from the clinical standpoint and we see, potential safety concerns that we said, it's not that it's coming from the unwillingness to change, but just maybe need some processes and protocols in place for oversight for better patient care. And if they have some resistance to that, say, well, I've been doing like this for quite some time, and we know that, this is not going to end well. It may end up in a board complaint, and anything that tries to take us down that road up front, we try to either identify it up front and try to mitigate that risk of saying, hey, this may not be a great partnership if you're not willing to change some of these key red flags from the patient safety and continued care and autonomy of care. And so that's really, where some providers will think, okay, well, I want autonomy of care. It's, kind of a green flag to do anything and everything. But what are our guidelines, and making sure that the guidelines are I guess, run in parallel to what we see and what the really board regulates as well.
Yeah, great advice. Hey guys, listen, we're out of time. Great conversation. Really enjoyed that. But if folks wanted to get a hold of you, maybe have a question for Providence Dental Partners, or if they had some questions in general about the DSO market or what they can do or how they can proceed, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, the easiest way is to go right to our website, providencedentalpartners.com. On there, you'll find a contact form, phone number, real easy to reach out to us, let us know what's on your mind, or even if you just want to set up a call to learn more about us and maybe what your options are as you're going through transition, feel free to reach out to us via the website, providencedentalpartners.com.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks for having us, Dr. Schmidt.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that. And also like to thank our producer, Kristen Gover. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe to our channel. You can always find us on the AGD app, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube under @General Dentistry. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, or suggestions, contact us at news@agd.org. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.